Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cutie Art Crusaders for episode 3. So glad to have you back. We're back again for another week. Our premiere was last week and we had so much fun doing it. We'd just like to thank everyone who came out to the premiere live and showed us so much support. We weren't really expecting that. And also all you guys who followed us on YouTube and really promoted us there, and it was really awesome to see that we got such positive feedback. So we're hoping to continue that this week and in coming weeks with some more awesome art content for you guys. So yeah, that's basically it. Thank you guys. And Bern, do you want to take it away?
Yeah. This week we have something special for you guys. We have two very special guests, Spirit and Lion, and they are both professional animators doing a really amazing project for their personal portfolio. And Spirit and Lion, would you guys like to say hi?
Hello!
Hi.
Hi.
Howdy. Would you guys like to both tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am Spirit, and I am the one who specializes more in color here. I have been some years around the internet, and I have been a fan of My Little Pony since Generation 1.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Name is Lionheartcartoon, aka Lion for short. I am the main animator on the PMV Children of the Night.
Awesome. Well, for anyone who hasn't heard about your project, would you like to tell everyone about this amazing project that you guys are personally working on? A little bit of background behind it, why you're doing it, maybe what it's about?
Take it away, sweetie.
Okay. Well, we first heard the song by Kate Covington, The Come Little Children, which comes from Hocus Pocus and originally from an Edgar Allan Poe poem. And we started to comment on that song and how well it fit Luna, because it's sung in that specifical ancient English key. So I take D away, and all the mannerisms that she uses to talk were in that song. The voice matched, and eventually we came up with a story, and we started to picture that movie that we are making in our minds. Until it was one point in, what the heck, let's start doing this right away.
Yeah, it was like 3 storyboard drawings in when I couldn't just think of anything else. I had the images, but just not the timing, and then suddenly she just came up and said, why not do it together right away? And that's how we basically started, just a long discussion, hearing the song, a few seconds, stop, draw, let's try this, put it in, does it work? Yes, move on, listen to the song, draw, you know, that sort of stuff. But usually when we get a song just like this one, where we can see images in our heads, when given the opportunity to do something about it, we do. It's our first real big project together, so it's kind of fun.
Alright, well, before we get too far in depth, why don't we just take a break here for a second, and what we're going to do is we're going to show the entire Animatic, which basically is like the storyboard animation, trying to give people a taste of what the final project is going to be, and we're going to show the entire thing here, just in case you haven't seen it before. So please enjoy this 2-minute presentation, and we'll be right back.
Come, little children, I'll take thee away into a land of enchantment. Come, little children, the time's come to play here in my garden of shadows. Follow, sweet children, I'll show thee the way through all the pain and the sorrows. Weep not, poor children, for life is this way, murdering beauty and passion. Hush now, dear children, it must be this way, to weary of life and deceptions. Rest now, my children, for soon we'll away into the calm and the quiet. children, I'll take thee away into a land of enchantment. Come, little children, the time's come to play here in my garden of shadows.
And we're back. So that was the 2-minute animatic. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know definitely it was one of the coolest things. Bernd came up to me, must have been like 3 weeks ago, right when we were prepping to start the podcast and everything. And he came up to me and he said, "Have you seen this?" And I said, "No." And I checked it out and I went, "Wow, that's really amazing. Where'd you find this?" And he was like, "Oh, I was just looking around the internet. And, by the way, we've got an interview with them." Like I managed to get an interview. I was like, "No!" So it was a really awesome experience for that. I definitely, this is one of the coolest animation projects. Just from like how well the song, like you guys were mentioning, how well the song goes with everything.
Yeah, do you guys find that music inspires you to make things like this often?
Well, in my case, usually yes. I mean, I listen to a lot of motion picture scores or just sometimes even off mainstream music that I just happen to stumble upon. Instrumental stuff is really great when you're looking to have some imagery in your head. Well, at least that's how it goes for me.
For me, it's the same stuff. I mean, I cannot picture the music without cartoons. If you look to my iPod, it's Cartoonorama, cartoon scores, original soundtracks, and all that kind of stuff. And every time that I listen to a song or to a score, I have pictures in my mind, and they help me to get a mood for drawing certain things. So, yes, music influences my art a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's how we came up with that.
That's awesome. So what is the typical process that you guys go through when starting an animation such as Children of the Night? Because you guys are very influenced by the music, and I guess do you guys just start drawing and coming up with concept sketches and then move from there?
Well, we started out with one idea, like a backstory, a very developed backstory, and eventually we started to attach the strings and put it all together into one final plot for an animation. And that will be the story of Luna taking away the orphans.
Yeah, well, sometimes also it's just going to be a piece of fan art that's going to go, hey, that could be a nice idea too. And there were a few concerning Luna that we saw. And while we didn't draw that much before starting the official animatic, we just went, it could be nice. And when she heard the song, it went click. Okay, that could work. So we just took it from there. It's not while some studios and some other people might overplan it, sometimes it's just a lightning, an epiphany, and we started from there. It's just there's no correct way to explain it other than it's inspiration that just struck.
Yeah.
I noticed that you had a little bit of character development stuff posted up on your DeviantArts. Can you tell us a little bit more about like the background story and in like depth of the video and things going on?
I think that question is for me. Well, I'm trying to write the story, and I will try to write it. I will need some help, however, because my main language is not English, and it's just a fun story. Mostly is taking place in the old Canterlot 1,000 years ago. So there was a starting conflict between the two sisters. Celestia was adored by the people, and Luna wasn't so much adored. I mean, he was loved, but not just as much as Celestia. We know that she was jealous of her sister, so she thought that maybe she could start from zero in a new colony, because she thought she saw around that the ponies were having a very hard time after the Discordian time. They were recovering from that chaos experience. And the old Canterlot is poor and is dark. So she thought that founding a new colony somewhere else, far away, in a and expanding the kingdom could be a good idea, and it will give her the adoration of her subjects, the kingdom of the night. However, Celestia wasn't so convinced of that idea, and she concluded that splintering the kingdom was the worst thing to do, because the ponies, after all that chaos and disharmony, splitting the kingdom in two will cause a disgregation forever. There will be the ponies of the day and the ponies of the night. So Luna, who was pretty much shadowed by her sister, takes the final decision and takes the foals away. The problem, and this is something that I'm not showing in the video, is that Celestia has a vision of the future, because the ponies from Equestria are going to perceive those kids that were taken away as brainwashed. And that's the brew for a future war, so she has a very tough decision to do. Either she takes care of Luna, and we know how, or she risks her kingdom to crumble into war and split forever. That's Children of the Night.
And eventually it got twisted into Nightmare Night with Luna eating kids.
So this is almost like a pre-Nightmare Moon.
Well, that's not exactly like that. She turns into Nightmare Moon to face Celestia when she chases her and the children to come back to Equestria, and she totally refuses. And no, I'm not coming back, and the moon stays. So
it's one theory, at least.
That's a really cool way to look at that backstory. I know that's probably one of the most explored in terms of content in the fandom, is looking into that past, like what happened to cause this whole Nightmare Moon thing 1,000 years ago. Why did it happen? Was it just her, or was there some other outside force? So it's really cool to see kind of this backstory, and it works quite well.
Thank you very much. The thing is that what I don't like is to demonize Celestia or sanctify Luna, or vice versa. The thing is that each of them, in my version of the story, had their reasons to do what they did, and they had good intentions. And mostly the things just turned out to be that way.
Or like the concept that it's just a misconception that maybe Nightmare Moon is, this evil pony that eats children, and she was just taking them away to what she saw to be a better life to start a new kingdom.
Well, mostly because the children decide to never return to Equestria, so they technically disappeared, so the misconception has a big foundation. Like, they flew away and never come back. What happened? Oh.
I really liked the imagery at the end of the Animatic when her and the orphans just float off into the moon set, if you will, and Celestia sees them through the window.
Well, she doesn't exactly see them, but she feels something, and she sees she looks at the moon, and something's wrong.
Something is not quite like it's supposed to be. The moon is giving her nightmares. So technically Celestia is having a nightmare, and then she looks at the moon. That's a very subtle allegory. Nightmare, moon.
Right.
Nice.
Wow, that's really cool. I've always wanted to animate myself. That's I always have, as a creative person, I always have these ideas flowing around in my head. And we mentioned earlier about music and how that ties in. And every single time I hear like a piece of music, I can just imagine like a scene in my head, and I've always wanted to make it. Is that kind of how you guys got into animation?
Well, in my case, yes. I mean, well, yes and no. The first thing is that I wanted to get into computers. I failed math, so that's that. But in terms of animating, I mean, sometimes you need inspiration. For me, music is kind of one of them. And the other is just what happens to be my pet peeve at the time. It could be steampunk, it could be ponies, or a mix of the two. And sometimes just something is going to give it that little spark of inspiration, which makes it interesting. And then when I was with one of my pals, we started making comics just for fun. And I noticed that I had more fun animating stuff, making all of those in-betweens of an expression rather than just the extreme expression that was in the panel. So basically, just slowly, gradually, this became my my little career making animation. And what's cool in this is that as soon as I get an inspiration, I can see it animating in my mind. The thing is, it's long and it's hard. It's a tough process. You have to think everything. Observing colors is one thing. I'm not exactly very good at it, but it's still one thing. And observing animation, observing movement is something else. And while it's very long, usually with Flash, the good thing is, or just about any programs in terms of animation, you get almost instant satisfaction. You don't have to wait to scan in your animation paper and everything. You get to see right away what you did, and that instant gratification is really fun. When you see those bunch of lines and shapes just move on their own, giving life to something like that is just an awesome experience. At least to me it is. And that's probably what gets all those animators into animation. I think I lost myself there.
Well, why don't we let Spiritto take over too? Because I've always been so jealous of that fact. I tried animation a little bit, but I was just, I don't know, maybe I don't have the patience, or maybe I just never really got the inspiration for it, or maybe I'm just not, talented in it. But I've never really been able to do it. But so how about you, Spiritto? How about you?
Well, Spiritto, if I'm under the impression you're not in charge of the animating. Your husband is. Lion's in charge of animating.
No,
or you're in charge of like the art. Or
only
you also
assist
do
him
animating.
eventually with very little things, because animation is not my specialty. That's part of the story, actually.
What do you specialize in specifically?
Well, my specialty it's everything that is not animation. That's mostly my specialty. Well, Mostly I'm the icebreaker, or I act like the icebreaker, like creating that world around those little children and giving the effects, deciding the color key, and creating all the mood around that animation. Like not making it too dark, not too light. I started really soon to get attracted to animation. I was 6 years old, and I decided to be an animator then and to get into animation. And I really, really wanted that, but unfortunately for me, for where I was, it was inaccessible. It was a totally closed and accessible world. So little by little, through the years, I started to pierce my way into it. And I was so lucky to go to a fine art school and all that. Still, animation was unachievable because there were no animation teachers, no lessons on timing, no lessons on spacing, on basics of animation, nothing. Just go to the animation course, and I want a short film in the next 3 months. And where are the lessons? We don't have. Okay, very nice. So I tried my best, and I mastered the basics from many softwares, Flash and Premiere, and all that I needed to do the basics. But the real when I got with my husband, I discovered that animation was way more than that, and I was terribly out of practice. I missed my training, but I had enough ability to do the characters and to do the world and to do a storyboard. So that's what I chose to do. Instead, I had just enough to start creating those worlds and act as an icebreaker. And that's what I do. I would love to infuse life into the characters, but I grew to love more and more painting those backgrounds and created that mood. And depending on what I paint, the scenes are perceived in one or another way.
Yeah, I actually feel that like you said, you want to give life to that. I feel like you're actually giving life to the things that you do through painting, through art. I feel like
yeah, that's the thing. There's more than one way to give life to something, not only movement, but also it's all the atmosphere around it.
The backgrounds and the things that you've been doing for this project, there's so much life to them. I think you're doing really well.
Well, she's being modest, but I mean, she does help me a lot with animation, mainly because after a while, once you see the animation again and again and again and again, you get a bit drunk from it, and a new pair of eyes is something that really, really helps, because animation is a lot of observation, a lot of timing. You have so many things to think about, like the weight of a character, the eyes, where are they looking, the emotion of the moment, and it's not always easy to just pick up and go, especially with a program such as Flash, which uses tons of symbols and everything, because if you try and get her to look somewhere, you have to go into the symbol and then adjust the eyes. It's just the same as just drawing a line, and after a while that gets very heavy, and that's where she comes in. She just gets behind me and something here looks wrong. I mean, you have to be ready for that kind of criticism.
Yeah, if it's not me, it's going to be the whole community, so better
like
be
that.
ready.
I mean, we still do our best. It is a collaborative effort. I mean, the character could not come alive if the backgrounds themselves weren't alive. One cannot go without the other. You can still animate something on a blank piece of paper and have the background being white, or you can just draw the scenery and have it alone and say, well, this is the mood of the time. But when the two are brought together, you get basically all of those stills that we put out.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like you guys have a really good collaborative kind of atmosphere.
It's necessary.
You know, just the whole breaking up the animation, because I can imagine that, like, if you're working on the animation for a while, you start to like lose yourself in it, and it's probably a good thing just to like break that up a bit. And yeah.
Yeah, well, two heads are definitely better than one. But
Yeah.
if we didn't, we did quite a lot of meetings, like I said earlier, listening to the music, draw, listening to the music. Just one person doing this, you get a very unilateral way of seeing it. Whereas with two persons, or in terms of a studio, a bunch of people, let's just say that, because studios range from like 10 to 50 people, still you get tons of insights. So that's where it's important. One person can do all of that. But, I mean, it's still something that's very hard. It takes a long time, and it takes concentration. So when there's another brain in the house, it helps a lot.
Having a significant other to go over these projects with must be really amazing.
Well, it helps a lot. I mean, he also helps me with the painting sometimes. When I have some of the backgrounds, the killer ones, like we call it, take me a week to paint. And after a week of looking at the same thing, you start to get lost in the picture. It's unavoidable. So the second pair of eyes, when he comes behind me, no, this is not working. This must be done in another way, or the light is too bright, and pipe it down. Some things like that. It helps a lot to have someone to help you.
Yeah, I'm not the expert in colors, but I kind of come behind with my 5-year-old brain, and I go, it's too bright.
Nice.
Or, perhaps something more constructive, but still, essentially it boils down to that.
Yeah. Hi, guys. Sorry, I've been sitting in the background here.
Sorry about that.
I am still here. It's all good. Now, I know you guys spend heaps and heaps and heaps of time on this animation, and it really shows. It is amazing. But what do you guys do outside? Do you guys have, like, a job that isn't with animation, or do you just spend all your time on this? For the moment, I mean, I'm not currently employed with anywhere, but, I mean, I was told when I went to Ottawa last year that I needed to beef up my portfolio somewhat, and doing a little lip sync animation, picking up my Flash in a more serious way, and concentrated more on animation than video games was a really big plus. But I'm the non-working one right now in the household.
Well, right now I am employed, but I'm super reserved about that. The thing is that, like my husband said, we went to Ottawa, and we found out that in his case, more specifically, he needed a wider portfolio to showcase. So we decided to try and make an experimental animation which will show the very best that we can do. So we could prove what we are really capable of in the future. And that's how that's what the final decision of how of making Children of the Night is, for portfolio purposes mostly. It's super hard to break into animation. Very, very hard. And you need a good portfolio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we do need some kind of a distractions after a while. Like we said earlier, we get drunk of what we do, and we need another view. So I would just go and play some pinball games on the PS3 and stuff like that. So the distractions are needed. You have to leave your drawing or whatever you're doing for a couple of hours, and then come back, and suddenly you are the one with those fresh eyes on your work. So trying to do something all in one go, maybe it's nice for the momentum, but you will make mistakes eventually, and coming back to that work, you're probably going to see those mistakes a lot better than if you were just still sitting in the same place for 5 straight hours.
Yeah. And actually, it will be a good time to say that probably after this animation, Lion will be open for freelancing.
Well, we'll see about that. I mean, I'm gonna
whoa,
now. Yeah, not too fast.
You are taking on more than you think. This fandom has a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
I'm sure there'd be a lot of fans that would love to get their hands on you.
Yeah.
Literally, or
Well,
Probably both.
hey now.
Both.
married spud.
It's a PG podcast.
Yeah. So, what did I mean? I know you guys are fans of MLP and Spirit. You've been a fan, I guess, since Generation 1. So what exactly inspired you to work on a project such as this, like for your portfolio specifically?
The challenge and the opportunity to have some of the backgrounds and the paintings I do interact with animation. As I said before, we never had the chance to explore our limits. And for once, we had the opportunity to say, okay, if we really put our hearts into it, how far can we go? Okay, let's try. And we chose My Little Pony because we are both super fans of the G4, and I personally am a fan from Generation 1.
Well, I basically, I knew what Little Pony was, and, well, I didn't get really into it until she showed it to me at one point. But in terms of, for the portfolio, I mean, seeing as it's something that is close to our hearts right now, something that we both enjoy, something that is fun to watch and fun to draw, it's the best possible way to get the maximum out of what you can do, because you're motivated to do it. You have some kind of an ulterior motive, which is also drawing something that you like, animating something that you like, and making it a bit of your own. And that's kind of why it's fun. Well, more fun. It's not like animation is just boring. No. But still, I mean, having something to show that really shows your potential, or if it's not the maximum that you can do, close to the maximum that you can do, and which actually shows that you can manage a project like this, because it is a lot of you see the drawings, you see the final result, but there's a lot of the background stuff that you have to plan, like how many frames from one shot to the next, and how will it work, the angle to choose, the perspective to use. All of that stuff is done in the background. What everybody sees is the end result. So that also is something that's going to account in the portfolio, not just the final result, but also all of the managing that was behind it.
Yeah.
And MLP kind of clicked on because, well, for one, there was the song, and then there were the characters, and we were both fan of the stuff, and we are still fan of the stuff, and it's something that's interesting. It strikes a chord with us, and this makes it all the more motivating.
Nice.
Yeah, you definitely need something to be passionate about to be able to put that amount of time. And it's funny that you mentioned the amount of time you put into it, because as I'm listening here and as I hear you have a website that you post updates to and how much work you go into there. I was thinking, like, how do these people have jobs and are able to still put out this much content? So, I mean, this might sound mean, but I'm kind of looking forward to you not having a job if it means more projects like these.
No, actually, the answer to that is more heartbreaking than anything else. Okay, how do I say it? I work 16 hours per day.
Wow.
What I do.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. She comes back from work, and suddenly there's something else that she has to work on. So, while I'm half looking forward to having a job at one point, but I don't want it to be like right away. I want to finish this, and I know that if I get a job, it's going to take most of my energy during the day, because after all, I'm being put under contract to someone to do their stuff. So it's going to grab a lot of that energy that I currently put into Children of the Night. So while I do hope I have a job, I hope it's not like right away. I want to finish this really. I mean, it's gone too far right now to just have it grind to a halt or just put on hiatus because of a duty that has to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Also, for my part, it's all about the speed mostly, because I only have a limited amount of energy per day to do things. So when you are working on this professionally, you cannot stop drawing. Like, when you arrive home, it's not relaxing time, it's not TV time, it's not fun time, it's work harder time.
I thought this project was fun.
Yeah, it's fun, but you know what I mean. It's like you're changed literally to the sketchbook. You go outside, you go with the sketchbook under your arm and with your pencil and with your eraser everywhere, to the restaurant, to taking a walk, and it's actually like that. You cannot escape a single day, and it's mostly like that. And in my case, making paintings in Photoshop, I have to develop strategies to be faster and more efficient each time. So in my case, the lack of time is a plus, because I become faster.
While you guys are here, I mean, I know you guys are making this for your professional portfolio, but a lot of our viewers here are, well, they're not really up to the professional standard. Do you guys have any tips for people beginning in animation, people just starting out? I mean, I've done a couple of small things, but it's really nowhere near anywhere like yours. So anything for these guys?
Well, usually the best way to go is to observe and to practice.
because professional people look for usually speed because it's more efficient, and they look also for speed and quality, which is something that's very hard to come by combined. But the best way to go is to keep pushing, keep getting better, and keep practicing, because basically your talent is something that grows, is something that needs to be nurtured, and if you don't do it, well, you can't really expect to get better and to actually get noticed. Getting noticed is only half of the work, because when you apply for a job, you're not the one deciding to get hired. Someone else is doing it for you. But keeping hope and keeping strong into your artistic skills is the best way that you can do, because you only get professional if you get a job and you learn from those people with experience. I'm basically a junior when it comes to animation. I worked in video games mostly, but I got to animate in video games. I just didn't get to animate in a way that I'm currently doing now, which is making a small PMV. Well, a video clip, basically. It's something that I love to do, but I didn't get to do it enough. Having a little character from sideways, running, jumping, crouching, sliding, and then dying is basically, it was my bread and butter for the longest time.
Did you have any inspiration, anyone you were looking up to when you were learning how to animate, when you were just starting out, or anyone teaching you?
Well, I went to an animation school, but most of my, should I say, quote-unquote heroes were comic book artists. Their style was something that I really enjoyed. One of them is André Franquin in France. He's dead now, sadly. I couldn't ever meet the guy. But I really enjoyed what he did, and still how things correlate to what is mainstream today. There's always something more in there. But animating... I watched tons of cartoons without ever really knowing the names of the people that were working on it. Only recently have I noticed some little quirks in some animations. Say, oh, that's the guy that animated that character. Oh, that's the person that did this other character. You know, it's fairly recent. But while you look at those books and look at those tutorials online, having a hero is not necessarily needed, but it definitely is a big help, especially if you kind of get to meet the person in the end.
How about you, Spirit? Do you have any advice for anyone or anyone who you look up to or admire?
Well, my advice will be take a deep breath, because it's very hard. And if you are starting in the animation school or in the art school, it's a lot harder than people think. You are going to be challenged mentally and physically to get that diploma. And that's no joke. You are going to have to work very, very hard. Push yourself to the limit, and there's no excuses. If you are really passionate about this, it's not going to be a painful experience, because the love for the animation, the love for creating is going to fuel you constantly, and the challenge is permanently going to be there. So if you have a hard time drawing vehicles, push on that, draw vehicles, and don't stop drawing. Draw. It's something that's difficult. Insist on it. Don't run away from it, because it's going to come to bite you later. So my advice is finally, be very passionate, never give up, and keep trying and you will get it eventually. It always clicks, always.
I've heard that it's when you make art, especially in an art school, it's about making the art for your portfolio and for school. I mean, you really have to put in that effort. It's not about it be tying in passion, and then the proper portfolio work is something that takes learning.
That's something apart. Well, that's something that you discover when you are first in the art school. There are something that is the industry standard and the academic standard, which are totally different. But that's part of the challenge, because they are going to try to drive you academically, and the ideal is that you create focusing on the industry in the future. But that's part of it. That's why you have to go permanently with the sketchbook under your arm and go.
Yeah, the classical doesn't die. If you're afraid to draw, I mean, maybe it's not the thing for you, but like she said, by the time the academics are done teaching you, you suddenly realize that everything outside in the industry has changed and you have to adapt. So adapting is something that you should really keep your hand over the button. Like, adapt now.
Now, Spiritto, you said you came from a place that didn't have a lot of opportunities for you. So did you have anyone you looked up to? Because I know you had to put in a lot of time and effort for yourself to teach yourself. And so did you have anyone in particular?
Well, my husband helped me a lot, because we met when I was still in school. But there are a lot of artists that I always have looked up to. I have like my large Hall of Fame mental gallery, and I always imitate those guys. Don Bluth is like a very big influence for me. I love his style, and there's a lot of his style in my characters. And the list is so large. There is Stephen Silver, Bobby Chu, Don Bluth, the guys from Gilby Studio, mostly for backgrounds. Miyazaki, to be more precise. I always confuse him with Osamu Tezuka, which I also looked up. The guy from Astro Boy. The list is humongous. Even if I didn't have the opportunity because it was not offered, I took every chance I got, like every hint, every book I came across in the library. I was the library rat, always there, always studying. Every tutorial that I could find on the internet, every forum of animation that I could join. And even if the opportunity wasn't there, I broke into that world. I made it happen. When you are really determined to do something, it doesn't matter where you come from. If you really believe in it and if you are really passionate about it, it's going to happen.
Kind of on a related topic, like as artists, we like are constantly learning. Well, we're kind of amateur artists compared to you guys, but we're constantly learning as we create more and more artwork. Is there something like that you guys, or have you guys kind of learned a lot while doing this project that you're working on, the Children of Light project, like from the start to where you are now?
Well, communication is something that definitely needs to be addressed. I mean, it's very important, obviously. You can't just say, hey, finish the background. What background? Well, for shot 15. It's communication is something that's crucial. As far as learning, I mean, basically we're trying to put down everything that we know, and learning comes more from the tools than our actual academics right now. We're putting in everything that we know, so while we learn more about our own limits, I'd say, we're not learning as much in terms myself in terms of art. I'm trying to find shortcuts into what I already know to make my own art more efficient, but learning is something constant, even if you don't always notice it. It's something that's instinctive. As I notice that as soon as it gets easier for me to do something, instinctively I'm going to push, and I'm not going to notice it until I come back to it. It's like I finished one shot, and then I move, and 4 or 5 shots later I see it again, and there's a mistake there, and I have to go back and correct it, because now I can see it. It's not something that's conscious, sadly. I wish it were, but it's not.
In my case, I learned a lot. I learned some new communication skills, how to criticize the animation, how to give a good input into the process, and mostly I learned about efficiency, because I have to pace myself and don't get too tired, don't get too dragged out. I had to develop new strategies. So, for example, if I get 3 backgrounds that are the same thing, for example, the orphanage, I recycle some of the color key from one to the other, and I do the 3 backgrounds at the same time, so I can paint in the more efficient way possible. And after I have the 3 of them painted, I go to the next one, and when I have it almost finished, I go back into the orphanage backgrounds and I seek for the detail. I learned to do 2 passes on the backgrounds to search for mistakes, for little details that I maybe skipped. I learned about efficiency strategies, about the color key, and by facing the same problems again and again from background to background and from design to design, I learned new solutions for those problems. Because when you are painting 36 little big backgrounds, not little, big backgrounds that take place in the night time, you have a problem. The night is very dark and colors are desaturated, so monochromatic look is unavoidable, and I have to avoid it. It's part of my challenge to avoid that. And that's mostly it. I learned a lot from this thing, and it's the first time that I see my backgrounds actually moving into the picture and interacting with the picture.
I imagine night scenes are quite difficult to give a different feel to. Everybody looks at that night and goes, well, it's one color, and then why isn't it just that one color throughout? But there's a lot more to it, and that's quite hard to to do. Whereas during the day, you've got sunset, and you've got morning, and you've got midday, and all these different shading effects and stuff. Whereas night's quite difficult.
Well, night is difficult because, for once, we are not so used, but for this thing, it required a lot of research, like how moonlight interacts. Oh, sorry for that. How moonlight interacts in things, which are the tones of the night, which colors will fit well together, which ones wouldn't. It has a lot of things. There are more things than to the night than that we think. It has, however, its difficulties. For example, making atmospheric perspective in a night scene. Oh, mamma mia! It's like, darn it, this problem again. How do I make the values? How do I make it an atmospheric perspective without resorting to daylight strategies? Because I cannot do that.
Some of the perspectives that I see in your finished stills and like of the backgrounds are just amazing. Like of the the big open forum with when Luna's walking across and how it's bent and expanded, and then when you're looking up at her tower, they're just amazing. It's like, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Oh,
what goes into making it?
Well, perspective is his cup of tea. He's a specialist.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to be very humble in this. I'm not alone. She knows atmospheric perspective better than I do, and I know, more of a classical perspective stuff, lines drawn and everything. But I mean, we both are learning from each other more than anything, actually. However, that particular background where everything is bent is just... My goal in there was to create some kind of a fisheye. I wanted for the tower to look somewhat ominous, because she is kind of taking some kids after all, so I wanted to have some kind of a kid's perspective. Almost every time you're going to look at Luna, in the background or where she's going to evolve, it's going to be an upwards shot. Mainly because, well, you yourself could be a kid. So the perspective in there, I started by just using the main sketch that I made, the draft, and over that I overlaid all of my lines for most of the perspective. I had to make some backgrounds really big just in Photoshop, just to get my vanishing point at the right spot, and then I started adding more and more lines to try and define where I would put every object. Having an idea of what somewhere goes where is very nice, but until you put it there, you don't know if the composition is going to work, and that's where she comes in at some point, because if I have my whole perspective laid down and I say there's going to be a huge mass there, there's going to be something there, and then the tower is going to be there, it needs to balance out, and we can't just use colors to balance, you have to also use the perspective in itself. So based on that, once the grid was down and we did the designs for all of the town, I started just laying down details. Okay, this house is going to be 2 stories, it's going to be more in forwards, and then I'm going to add a few flower pots maybe. And then as long as something makes sense, I kept adding and adding and adding, and up until one point I said, well, the details look nice. I should probably just consult her and see if she can think of something else or something more.
Yeah, that's the thing. Perspective has its rules, and usually with perspective you have a lot of straight lines and parallel lines. One thing about cartooning, you cannot have that. There's something called the ladder effect, which is if you climb a ladder, you don't need to look at the ladder, because the distance between each step is equidistant, it's the same distance, so you can do it by heart. If you do that in animation, if you throw a ladder, like something with a lot of parallel lines and which is very straight, the eye travels like click, flash around it, and it's boring. And the thing is that when you have perspective, you get a lot of that. My job is to break it. And I break it with shadows, I break it with color, and with composition. That's the great challenge.
And I try to help her out at the very beginning.
In like My Little Pony in the show, when it has backgrounds and perspectives, they're not quite as dynamic as what you've gone into. You've almost gone the extra step. I mean, in atmospheric perspective and then dynamic perspective, it's so much more than what you would see in the show. But what do you feel about that?
Well, the thing is that there's a reason for the show being like it is and for ours to be like it is. Like, for example, our backgrounds are not recyclable. The only thing that we recycle is the moon. And the moon comes directly from the show, so you can get an idea. You have to recycle when you are making backgrounds of Canterlot. You have to recycle some of the bits of those backgrounds into the next one, so they are staged in a way that you can take elements from one into the next. They have a little bit of perspective, and some of the backgrounds are super studied, and those are mostly the key backgrounds done by Dave Dunnett, which is one artist from Studio B that I admire a lot. A heck of a lot. He worked on Tarzan before, and his job is awesome. He knows what he's doing, and he threw perspective in every background he made. However, the others have to be recyclable. In our project, we decided, okay, we are going to take it as far as possible, so we are not going to get concerned about the recycling at all, and we are going to create a background for each scene. That's the main of it.
Well, there's also the mood that goes with it, so... but we know where they come from in terms of animation production. We know that they are on a tight budget and a schedule, something that we don't have to worry too much about. So while they have that constraint, our own constraint is just to try and push what we already know and get into the mood as much as we can. The music itself is self-explanatory, but we kind of like that extra step. We kind of like that extra emotion that it gives. We even went a little bit further with a highlight and a rim light on most of the shots where Luna is and where the foals will eventually be. We have some I would say post-production almost effects that goes on it just to try and push that little bit extra. I know it's not exactly show accurate in terms of backgrounds, but I don't know, it doesn't seem to clash too much, and we kind of went to some length to try and adapt the style of Ye Olde Canterlot to what the show already had established as a style. Of course, we didn't go to like those cloth tents and the Bronze Age of the stuff, but we figured that it would be believable and it would be interesting to look at.
Oh, extremely.
Trust me, as you're talking to 4 people right now who we're the show accurate guys. We make vectors. We're going like for that perfect kind of show accurate stuff. Don't worry about it. We know better than show accurate. Don't worry about it. You shouldn't worry about the show accuracy because it looks fantastic. And coming from guys who really look at that's fantastic.
There's so many more elements added to it that make it so much more than show accurate. It's show accurate and then has such more like artistic quality added to it that it makes it truly amazing.
Well, I mean, we did get some help. I mean, there are a lot of artists out there that took the show accurate stuff and pushed it to another level, like using gradients and using some kind of an effect or a bloom or anything. But, like she said again, it's not the only thing that we actually reuse is the moon, because it's in almost every shot. I don't think even the clouds will get reused, whereas you guys, where you do
not a single cloud is used twice.
So see, I mean, there are going to be some clouds in there, and well, I should say a lot of clouds. And, well, we could reuse some. I don't believe it's going to be the case, but you guys work in vectors all the time. You know that if you can pick an eye from a character that you already drew and just change the shape a little bit, you already saved a bunch of time. Whereas, while we could technically do that, it would be on par with the show, but I think we'd be cheating ourselves. But we do love what we've come up with so far, and the fact that we can adapt it to our way instead of just picking apart and making a puzzle out of it, we believe it makes it more interesting that way.
And I'm sure from a portfolio point of view, it's also much better to do that as opposed to... I mean, yes, I'm sure companies want to hear how you can reuse stuff, but coming up with something like this from scratch shows a lot of ability. I'm sure that's going to help out with that portfolio.
Well, thanks. We were super scared when we went in this direction initially because we didn't know if the fans were going to like it. Oh, what if they hate it? What if they want this show accurate style? And we didn't know either how it was going to result. Like, we didn't have the images clear in our heads, like mixing Luna, which is flat, with almost three-dimensional backgrounds. How is this going to come out?
There were a few
since you've had so much shading, it's come out great.
Yeah, we actually we were in our live stream for our premiere, and we had mentioned at the end of our second episode that you guys were going to be on, and a lot of people in the live stream were really excited because they've seen your animatic and they really enjoy it. So yeah, you guys are doing an awesome job.
Thanks.
We do what we can. I'd like to say we do what we can, really. I do enjoy it a lot. It's just that, it's the kind of, you don't want to disappoint anyone, and it's
it's up to that point where, oh my god, it's just, you don't want to put a single foot wrong because there's so many people watching now. It's not exactly unnerving, but it's a little bit of extra pressure. However, some of them are very understanding. Understanding. I mean, I can't wait to see the finished product. They don't ask necessarily when it's going to be done. I mean, I don't even know myself, but someone just go, I can't wait to see this finished. Oh my god, it's going to be so cool when it's done. It's just we know we're going to finish it. If I could know, it's our very first big project. If I could know, if I had a previous project that I had already finished in the same fashion, I could say, well, it's going to take about that much time. But I don't know. It's our first really big one, so extreme apology to everyone listening. We really don't know when we're going to have it finished. But as long as the blog is still going, as long as we put out progress reports, keep hope. It's still going forward.
I definitely know that if we didn't address that question, if we didn't address the question of do you know when it's coming out, then we would be killed by our audience. So to answer that, you did answer that, so you don't know when it's going to be coming out, and that's understandable, especially with projects of these size. It's not even a game of like how much have I done in this amount of time, because each scene is so different. You mentioned your blog, and I just wanted to put it up here in case people don't know about it. It's firstnightmarenight.blogspot.ca. So you guys can head there, and I know that's how I personally got to see more before we came on, obviously, and interview you guys today. See more, and you've got some great behind the scenes looks there. So yeah, again, that's firstnightmarenight.blogspot.ca, and that's where you're going to be posting all your updates, correct?
Yep, that's where the updates actually, all of them go. Even there's a little fan art of the night, because some people do fan art. It's a new experience for us. They do fan art of our work, even if it's not exactly. It's like an MLP fan art of a fan art. It's strange.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, our fan art, our fandom is a little bit insane in that terms. We'll have like a parody of a parody of a fan art of a parody of a show. That was Generation 4.
Just keeps going.
Yeah. Speaking of big fans, and your projects, there's another project that not a lot of people might know about that you've also were working on at one point. I believe it was called Heaven's Light that you were doing with Mando Pony, and that's what I mentioned about fandom. Is I'm a huge fan of Mando Pony. Whatever happened to that project, and what was working with Mando Pony like?
I am very glad that you asked that question, because I want to clarify it one more. I'm going to finish Heaven's Light. I swear I'm going to finish Heaven's Light. You see, the thing is that Heaven's Light, it's a collaborative project, so I'm going to have some external animations working on it. The thing is that when I started Heaven's Light, I clashed with one problem, which was my animation limit. And I had to do the puppets, and a lot of things happened when that project was supposed to start, and I wasn't able to manage the animation engine by myself, and that's mean directing the people, contacting the people, getting the Muppets and everything ready for them. I wasn't able on my own. I lacked experience. So my husband offered me to do Children of the Night, to do that project together, for me to learn all that was necessary to manage Heaven's Light. So after I do Children of the Night, I will give my best shot to Heaven's Light, because I'm going to be the main animator on that.
I can't wait.
Thank you very much.
It looks great.
And working with Mando Pony was awesome. He's so patient. He's so devoted to what he does, and he did the awesome voice of young Discord. I'm so grateful to him for doing
I'm
that.
definitely really jealous. I have a huge man crush on Mando Pony.
There's something that I'm very determined to do. If it's only to honor the voice of Mando Pony, I'm going to finish the freaking Heaven's Light.
So you're mentioning future projects, and you mentioned a little bit earlier that you might be looking into, requests or like people paying you to make different stuff. So obviously you're making this for your portfolio, and if that ends up happening, getting you a job, you're gonna have less time to do this kind of stuff. But in terms of just in general future projects, do you have anything planned for the future after this? I'm sure a bunch of people have come up to you and said, "Oh, you need to animate this," or "Oh, you need to animate that." Do you have any plans?
Yes, people ask us to do a lot of stuff, but we are just human. For now, we have planned Children of the Night, and afterwards I'm going to give my best shot to Heaven's Light. I actually managed to clear one of the big problems, which was Discord rigging animation for the body. I found a solution, which I hopefully will work, which is a bone system for managing the torso and the neck and the little tail. So that's mostly it. For me, it's going to be this and Heaven's Light, and afterwards a break for heaven's sake.
For heaven's sake.
What about you, Richard?
Well, I don't have very big projects right now. Children of the Night is probably the most complex and time-intensive project that I've been since I was in animation school, and it's something that I kind of enjoy a lot, mainly because I get to do actual, real, full-on animation for once. But I did help her a lot with Heaven's Light, and it's something that I probably will help her with as well. I mean, even if it's just for the planning to help her out, but I'm probably gonna put my hand into animating a little bit of that as well. It's from the Animatic point of view and standpoint, I would say it's less complex than Children of the Night. It gathered a lot of following, gathered a lot of fans, and those would definitely be at a loss if that project was not finished. I mean, even for the sake of Mando Pony, he put so much time and effort into voicing the young Discord that it would just be a crime. So after Heaven's Light, I'm not sure, a few snippets of stuff left and right, but it's the project would probably be done even faster than Children of the Night once that one's done. In terms of other big projects, I don't know. It just depends on what's on the plate, what ideas is going to come around. I dabbled in the idea of pony steampunk with what I called my Little Pony Mares of Tomorrow, you know.
That's awesome. I haven't heard of that. I'll have to see.
Sounds like a good idea.
Well, I have some sketches on my own Divine Art. I just dabbled in the idea. I had some fun. I have a little bit, very small bit of backstory on this. I didn't develop it that much further. It's something that could probably be fun, but I basically had art ideas, and that's how it went, even with a bit of music in the background.
Well, one fact is for sure. After this project and Heaven's Light, we will have the puppets. And if we have an urge and strike of inspiration, maybe something else will come up.
Yeah,
Usually silly.
We'll have the experience and the puppets and what we need. Really. It could be something possible, but if I ever have an idea, it's probably going to be another little music video. I love doing those for some reason.
Well, since we're a show about art, I have a question for the both of you. On Heaven's Light, one of the things I loved about it was just the color theory put into it. How it started out as that blue and the sky and that this like overwhelming, like kind of the sadness or the longing. And then when he was looking in the puddle at the reflection of himself, and when Celestia raised the dawn, and it gave that feeling of warmth and hope. Like just, I guess my question for you is both: do you have more things about art or more in depth on art that you find you're passionate about? Things like color theory or animation or timing or even music even. Do you both have something you would like to gush about or talk about relating to that?
Well, about color theory, that's I guess my field of practice. I'm super methodical with color theory. No color that I put into a background or into a painting or an illustration is put by hazard, randomly. I mean, everything has a reason to be and a mood to be created. I
definitely felt it when I saw your work. Sorry.
Thank you. Well, the thing is that in order to create a mood, I know that certain color combinations do one effect and others do the opposite. And if you do the color key wrong, you can throw the audience absolutely off mood, and you have to be very, very careful. It can
I find
work.
it's fun to do purposely sometimes, though.
Purposely, yes, but for example, I love to talk about this. I observe Disney movies a lot, and I have many books about color theory. I actually went into the psychological implications many times and chat about it as often as I can. For example, if I wanted to create something evil, I will go with purple and green. That's the combination for evil. And it's not a casualty that Chrysalis has a green mane, an aquamarine mane. And her magic is green, which is the tone for evil. And if we search around the changelings, we will find in purple as well. That's the main combo for evil. If I want something that is scary and super actiony, red and black. automatically. I go for those two color keys and some traces of yellow maybe, or maybe some white to do the highlight, because that's the kernel model of temperature for color, for creating a nucleus of heat. And now I'm being super nerdy with that.
No, that's what we love.
No, please go
yeah.
on. We love
What we're
Okay.
about. Go on.
So for Heaven's Light, I used pastel tones mostly for that down, and it's gradual. Ghost Peacock, which was it's a girl who does comics on Divine Art, started a project, and she started with a very simple gradient with the characters drawn over it in multiply layer. So I took that idea and fleshed it out more to more complex backgrounds. In Heaven's Light, the night is not like Children of the Night. It's aquamarine. It's full of light. It's the most light night that you can possibly have, without making it too artificial. It has some purple tones, but it's mostly aquamarine all the time. And conform you go to a normal light, you have the pink of the dawn, which is different from the golden hour that photographers call, which is more red, orange, and gold. The dawn usually is cold. It's a cold time of the day, so it's pink and more desaturated. And then you go into the final dawn, which is green, starting to come up with that blue sky, and mostly expressing the morning as something bright, full of hope, but also a little bit cold, because there's no heat in the morning. And that's mostly it. For Children of the Night, however, that's trickier. So we resourced it to something that is fabulous in color key speaking, which is Monkey Island. So the old contour lot is referenced directly on Monkey Island on many shots.
Wow, I wouldn't have guessed that,
Oh,
but
wow.
no, now I definitely see it. Now you mentioned it. That's
Yeah,
great.
those windows, my husband helped me with that, and those shiny yellows against the night, which is purple and blue, those are the complementary colors, and it helps to
Yeah.
pop the light. And part of the theme of Children of the Night is that as Luna sings, and this is not shown in the animatic, the lights go out, the flames go out.
I just got chills. That sounds awesome.
Yes, and all the lights start to fall off as she passes by. All the light is dragged out, and the only light that is left is the moonlight and the stars. Her night, like the flames of the day, the reminiscence of the light are not going to contaminate my night as she passes by.
Wow.
And are those complex? Those color keys are extremely complex because I have to fill it with color and with atmosphere. And when you have nighttime, you lose color because nighttime is super desaturated. So you only have purple, aquamarine, blue, and gray. And I have to break that.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Well, as much as we'd love to just keep going here, we have kind of run out of time here. I know definitely all of us would love to go on for probably another hour talking to you guys about this, just because your insight is fantastic and the project is so amazing. But unfortunately, we have to wrap up. So I'd just like to start by saying thank you guys so much for coming on the show. You guys have been fantastic guests. We've loved having you on.
You're most welcome.
I would love to invite you both back as well when you do finish your project, and maybe we can get back and talking about the final color theory. I can't wait to see what you do when Celestia looks up at the moon and the orphans are being carried into the sky. I can't wait to see the color theory on that. Maybe we can get more in depth on it when you finally do finish your project.
I think you're going to like the Celestia shots because it's already animated.
Yeah, this one's done.
Oh,
That's
Oh.
every shot of Celestia is already done.
don't tempt Burn.
Wow.
He's gonna die.
No, we're not showing, not yet.
Come on.
And it has
Maybe
a
just for the
specific
show.
color key for it.
Well, anyways, again, thank you guys so much for coming on. Yeah, definitely, we're gonna be pestering you to come back on once that's done, and I'm sure everyone else is so excited to have that finally done. And that's basically it for our show this week. Thank you guys for coming out, whether or not you're on the live stream or on YouTube. I just wanted to point out something. The last week that we did this, we released the episodes on YouTube, and people were kind of wondering about the live stream, and that's understandable. You know, if you only follow Everfree Radio on YouTube, it can be kind of confusing about the timing and stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a link on the screen right now. That'll head you over to our project page or our program page, and there you'll find all the information. You'll have our YouTube videos embedded, you know, who we are, what we do. And I'll also give you a time. So every Tuesday at 9 p.m. is when this show is going to air. So if you guys would like to come out to the live stream, not only do you get to see this video a day or so early, but you also get to chat with us. We like to hang out in the chat. And hopefully, no promises, but hopefully we can get one or both of these guests to come and chat with us in the chat for this episode. So hopefully we'll see you guys there.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Could be fun. You guys are awesome.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting us.
Appreciate
It's
it.
been really, really fun.
No, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This has been great.
Lion and Spirit. I would like to again thank both of you for coming out on the show.
I'm
Well,
sorry
thank
for the
you.
nerding around with the color. You just made the
No,
wrong question.
no, that's exactly what we
by
do.
far
That
was
is
the
exactly
easiest.
what we do.
Was my favorite part of the show. Was easily the best part of the show. I wish we could have actually done it more.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we're basically wrapping up here. Anything else? I think Flutterguy, you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention basically all of our pages. We have a Twitter page, which is at Cutie Art Crusade. So come and follow us or check us out. We'll be kind of posting tweets about the show. We're also on Facebook, which is facebook.com/Cutie Art Crusaders. Again, we'll be posting links about the show, and we can post more there than on Twitter because of the character limit. And lastly, come check us out on DeviantArt, because we'll have all of the artwork from all of our episodes up there. We'll be posting journals about the show, and you can leave comments there, or we really encourage you to email us, which is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com, with any art submissions or questions that you might have, and we will try and hopefully get some of those into our future episodes.
Yeah, we got a lot of questions this week from a couple of individuals, so we're hoping to work those into our future shows. But if you want to send in questions, that email. A good note about the DeviantArt page is actually, if you head over there right now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting up a favorites folder, like we do every single week. We set up a favorites folder for each episode, and in there you're going to find tons and tons of stuff. I'm going to try to pick up everything I can from the Children of the Night project and stick it in there, so you'll have like one central place just to see a bunch of those pictures. Obviously, a link to their blog spot. Again, that's firstnightmarenight.com. firstnightmarenight.blogspot.ca. What am I saying? Don't get it wrong. And yeah, so you can check out more information there. And that's basically it. I'd like to thank you guys for the 5th time for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for a 5th time. Glad to be here.
Would either of you have anything you'd like to say before we end our show?
Well, thanks a lot to everyone for all the support, both on the YouTube, on the A page, and the blog, for keeping us going. Basically, it's really awesome. We never expected that.
Me
We
either.
appreciate you not letting us down.
We will not.
We will not.
better not cut this project halfway through.
No,
Anything for
never.
you?
All right, well that's everything for this week. Thanks to our viewers for listening and watching this. And this is Rainbow Plasma signing out.
Yep. And I'm Burned01.
And unfortunately, Pinky Dash had to leave early, so I'll sign off for him. And for myself, I'm Flutterguy317.
See you guys next week.
Bye.